Hagan. Are there any questions for the sponsor of the bill? Representative Carney.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Representative. Just wondering what obstetricians in the state you talk to with respect to the implications of this bill on their ability to practice medicine here in the state.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Carney, I would lead with saying that my door has been open since I dropped the bill in August. None have reached out to me. I take great pride in having an open door, an open process. I serve on the Health and Aging Committee. No one has reached out to me and expressed concern as the lead sponsor of this bill. I'm more than happy to hear from those folks and have them in the room. But we have had healthcare professionals in the room when drafting this bill alongside legal experts.
Can you explain what the liability implications are of the bill and what the impact might be on liability insurance for physicians if this bill passes?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Carney, as you know, I am not an attorney, so I will leave that to Dr. Forte, who helped in crafting the legal infrastructure of this language.
Just one. So, based upon your answers, my understanding should be you haven't talked to any obstetricians and you don't know what the liability implications are to doctors in the state if this bill passes.
Mr. Chairman, Representative, your interpretation is your own.
So is that correct? You haven't talked to any obstetricians, or you have talked to obstetricians?
Representative Carney, the member has given her answer. We're not going to go into interrogation.
I understand, Chairman, but either you have met with people who deliver babies for a living in the state, or you haven't. I mean, it's a yes or no.
I have met with folks who deliver babies in the state. In fact, one is just next door in Summit County.
Could you provide the names of the committee members? That would be helpful.
Mr. Chairman, have you met with any doctors in the state of Ohio as my joint lead sponsor?
Well, again, we're not going to get into interrogations, and we don't know it's a member's prerogative or whether or not to share with the rest of us who we meet with, etc. So,
okay.
Representative Ramos, you have a question?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and to the sponsor, or I suppose sponsor, if you're here to weigh in. I understand your intentions, which is to lower and possibly eliminate abortion. My concerns, my question is around the legality. You mentioned a number of states. I've been looking at this issue in a number of states as well. And what's happened is when these types of laws are passed in other states, it gives a presumption of more rights of the zygote than possibly the woman. In Washington, D.C., for example, a judge ordered a critically ill woman to undergo a cesarean section, which he understood might kill her, but he thought he had to protect that unborn life. It killed baby and woman. In Iowa, a pregnant woman fell down a flight of stairs, called the hospital called the police, and she was arrested for attempted fetal homicide. In Utah, a woman gave birth to twins and one was stillborn. They said it was because of her decision not to undergo cesarean section earlier in the pregnancy, and she was arrested on charges of fetal homicide. In Louisiana, one woman went to the hospital for unexplained vaginal bleeding and was locked up for over a year for second-degree murder charges. In Florida, it goes on and on. My concern is when we're starting to do these types of things, when we're saying that this is the fundamental right with the zygote, what has happened in other states, including the ones I mentioned, is judges and politicians then have ultimate say over a woman and over her doctor. I understand, I assume that's not your intention. I understand what your intentions are, I believe. Have you talked to any legal experts? Do you have any understanding of how this bill will affect those types of issues? And how this will largely affect big government getting into people's private lives?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Ramos, thank you for your questions. I certainly respect what you have to say. In no way am I intending to harm women. In fact, the opposite. I would, again, deter that we have a legal expert in the room who can answer all of those questions and has worked in drafting the legislation to avoid the issues which you spoke of. So I would not be the appropriate person to answer those questions, other than to say that is not the intention. You are correct. And I don't believe that that would be the repercussion of passing this legislation. In fact, after talking to rape crisis center directors and pediatricians and doctors, I would say that this actually encourages women to make that decision whether they're going to have an abortion or not at a time when it is healthier to make it versus the zygote, as you call it, or the child, in my opinion, having been further along in the fetal development, which is less healthy for both the mother and the child the further into the pregnancy that you go.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I definitely will, and if the legal expert is the person to ask about that, I will. You mentioned in your testimony, I'm trying to find it, but the machine doesn't have it on here, but I remember you mentioning economic impact of this. You and I are the only millennials in the legislature. I'm sure we have a lot of millennial friends. The majority of my female friends are vehemently pro-choice, and that's one thing or another. But the reason I bring that up is many educated young, college-educated young women and men have said to me when these types of bills come up, Jesus, I gotta get out of Ohio. And a lot of them have. And I'm concerned, and I know you are, about keeping folks in the state and everything else. I don't know that this is an economic bill one way or the other, but you brought up that subject. And my evidence is anecdotal, I will grant you, but I know plenty of people who said, I don't want to live in Ohio if this is what my rights are going to be or going to be taken away. I don't want to stay in Ohio. These are college-educated, young professional women who were the same exact people who we've been trying to attract in every other committee to stay in the state. So can you explain to me how this is a positive economic benefit?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Ramos, thank you for pointing out that we are the youngest members of the legislature alongside Wes Rutherford, who's a fine man. But I will highlight the fact that, contrary to popular belief, I am also college educated and know many college educated women. So thank you for highlighting that. As it relates to the economy, there's no question in mind that this state has been moving in the right direction. I mean, when I started in office, we had near double digits unemployment. Now Stark County, where I live, is below 5%, below the state and national average. I will say to you that I've never hidden my desire to protect the unborn, and I was elected with 68% of the vote in a 54% Republican district. So, as you may say, that's the information you've gathered from the people you've talked to. Certainly the people in my neck of the woods are saying different things, and there are a lot of people who are not encouraged to have this discussion because there have been false political antics put into the water stream suggesting that this is not a conversation to be had. Many women stand for life. Many of those women are in this room today. And I would just suggest that you expand your circles of people that you talk to. Of course, I have many friends who are college educated and who believe in defending lives of the unborn. And I will admit to you as well that my very best friend is actually pro-choice. So I hear all of the voices in the room, but the one thing that we have in common is the fact that we were granted life. So I'm going to continue my work on these efforts.